How can a country assemble a 57-story skyscraper in just 19 days, or build a 30-story five-star hotel in only 15 days? These aren't rumors. They're real projects in Changsha and Shangyin, China, built by Broad Sustainable Building. And all of this was possible thanks to one of China's signature strategies: prefabricating modules off-site in factories, then rapidly assembling them on-site like Lego blocks. This industrial-scale technique, developed and refined over years, is one of the key reasons China can build faster than almost anyone else. While the rest of the world argues over permits and paperwork, China seems to just build. But speed has a story. It's not just about manpower. It's about how politics, economics, and culture intersect in one of the world's most ambitious nations. Today, we're going behind the headlines to reveal why China builds faster than anyone else, and what that speed really costs. Before we jump in, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss more deep dives into the world's most fascinating stories. Chapter 1. A Culture of Grand Projects. China's obsession with massive construction didn't start with skyscrapers. For 2 millennia, emperors equated monumental works with legitimacy. The Great Wall wasn't just a military barrier, it was a statement of unity and power. The Grand Canal wasn't just an economic artery, it was a message that the state could shape nature itself. That mindset survives in modern China's visible achievements doctrine. If a local leader wants to be promoted, he must show concrete, literally. When Deng Xiaoping opened China in the late 1970s, "Development is the hard truth" became the national slogan. Local officials learned that the fastest way to boost GDP and get noticed by Beijing was to build airports, rail lines, bridges, and districts. The result? A culture where cranes and concrete became symbols of progress. In the West, voters judge leaders by jobs and taxes. In China, the party judges cadres by how fast their skyline changes. Chapter 2. Centralized decision-making. Imagine trying to build a new high-speed rail line in the US. You need to buy land from dozens of owners, negotiate with state and federal agencies, pass environmental reviews, and survive lawsuits. In China, land is state-owned. Acquisition can happen with a single order. The National Development and Reform Commission can greenlight a project in weeks. Provincial governments can mobilize funds and workers without public hearings. This top-down structure allows for a level of coordination rare elsewhere. Ministries, banks, suppliers, and contractors all answer to the same hierarchy. When Beijing says build, there's little room for obstruction. But this isn't just efficiency, it's also risk. Mistakes that would be caught in a slower process can snowball. Whole villages may be relocated overnight with minimal compensation. The very thing that creates speed also creates social and environmental tensions. Chapter 3. Cheap capital and state banks. The Chinese growth model runs on credit. State-owned banks funnel trillions of yuan into infrastructure every year at artificially low interest rates. Local governments set up financing vehicles that borrow off their balance sheets. Developers pre-sell apartments to finance construction before a shovel hits the ground. With such deep pools of cash, a contractor doesn't have to build in phases. They can deploy everything at once: cranes, workers, materials, and finish months or years faster than Western peers. But this financial steroid has side effects. When demand slows, debts linger. That's why China has entire ghost districts of unoccupied apartments and underused airports. Evergrande's crisis and the local government debt overhang are the flip side of those dazzling time lapses of towers rising overnight. Speed is expensive. Cheap credit hides the bill until later. Chapter 4. Industrialized construction. What looks like magic is actually manufacturing. Chinese construction giants treat buildings like products on an assembly line. Prefabricated modules are built in factories, trucked to the site, and stacked like Lego. Workers rotate in 24-hour shifts, pouring concrete at night, installing windows at dawn. This is how Broad Sustainable Building assembled the 57-story mini-sky city in Changsha in just 19 days. 90% of the work was already done off-site. This industrial model is now used for everything from hospitals, like the Hushenshan and Leishenshan facilities thrown up in days during COVID, to entire bridges. Chinese firms have built the world's largest high-speed rail network and the longest sea-crossing bridge using the same template. Standardize, prefabricate, mobilize. It's not magic, it's scale and repetition. Chapter 5. Workforce and Mobilization. For decades, China's greatest asset was an ocean of young, semi-skilled labor willing to live on site and work 12-hour shifts. These migrant workers left their villages for construction jobs in the cities, creating a mobile workforce of tens of millions. State-run trade unions and local governments could coordinate these crews like an army. When a mega-project was approved, thousands of workers, trucks and cranes could appear overnight. Even as wages rise and the workforce ages, the institutional memory of mobilization remains. Companies have entire departments whose only job is to orchestrate logistics for huge crews, and local governments still act as recruiters. The result is a muscle memory for speed that most countries simply don't have. Chapter 6. The costs of speed. Speed can be intoxicating, but it can also be dangerous. Buildings that go up too fast sometimes come down too soon. Bridges collapse, roads crack, and hasty environmental reviews lead to poisoned rivers and smog. Local protests and social unrest often follow displacement or pollution. There's also the economic cost. Overbuilding creates white elephants, airports without flights, and malls without shoppers, just to name a few. Maintenance is expensive, but political incentives reward completion, not upkeep. The miracle of speed hides a deferred maintenance crisis and, in some cases, structural risk. Chapter 7. Global Lessons and Limits. Foreign observers see China's time-lapse videos and ask, why can't we do that? But they rarely see the hidden trade-offs: debt, displacement, weaker oversight, and environmental costs. In democracies, those trade-offs are litigated up front. In China, they're postponed or ignored. That's why replicating China's model abroad is so hard. Even within China, the model is under strain. The population is aging, debt is high, and the easy land has been built on. Beijing is shifting from build anything to build smarter, prioritizing quality, green standards, and technology. Speed helped China rise. Now it must adapt to sustain that rise. Conclusion. China builds faster than anyone else because its system was built for speed. A unique mix of political centralization, cheap capital, industrialized construction, and a mobilization culture. But every advantage has a shadow. The question now is whether China can sustain that pace without undermining its own foundations. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit subscribe so you don't miss our next video, and tell us in the comments which of China's mega projects amazed you the most.